Well, I heard Mac Powell say one time in an interview that he hates the sound of his own voice. So if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah.
Even professional people hate the sound of their own voice.
He does have the best talking and singing.
Does he?
Pretty fun.
Yeah. Episode of the Duffel Pod podcast. I'm Emily Chavez, and I'm here with Ezra Chavez.
Hello.
And Ben Mathis.
Hey.
And Uriel Mathis.
Hello.
Wow, I think that might be the first time I've ever said Uriel.
Yeah, I'm not
Mathis.
sure I've heard you say that before.
I was sitting here, I'm like, yeah, I better get everyone's names right. So yeah, Ben and Uriel are my brother-in-law and my sister.
It's a weird marriage.
Hot start. I'm here with my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. I don't know how they ended up getting married. Oh, man. But no, I just wanted you guys to talk a little bit about yourselves. I met Ben before Uriel met Ben. So that's my claim to fame.
That's true.
In the Holy Land.
That's right. We were on holy ground. Mm-hmm. And I was a little bit bummed that I didn't meet you and Joey first because I met Gordon first. And I remember hopping on the bus, and Annie wasn't in Israel yet. I was really nervous. I'm like, oh, all these like college kids that I don't know are going to be here. And I really wanted to make a good impression and let them know that I was like a nice person. I was willing to hang out with them and stuff. Because long story short, I was going to Israel with Annie's college group. I hop on this bus, and I walk up to the first guy, and who's Gordon. Gordon, if you're listening, we love you. But he's not the most friendly person. And so I said, hi, I'm Emily. I'm Annie's sister. And I kind of stick out my hand, and he just looks at me and just like shakes my hand, doesn't say anything. And I was just like, all right. And I think I was going to introduce myself to like everyone on the bus. And after that encounter, I just went to the back and sat by myself.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh, this is going to be the worst trip ever. But then the next day, Ben showed up and we became friends. And
it was great.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we were in that little gift shop. Big boats. Were Capernaum? Was it Capernaum? Wherever the big boats were, that's where we were in the gift shop.
Okay.
We were looking. There was a plate or a bowl there.
Yeah.
That had parsley on it. And Alex loved to joke about parsley. He wasn't even there. But anyway, that's like where we first knew. They're like one of the first things you said. You're like, Ben strikes me as a wild child. Literally, probably the first thing I remember you saying to or about me.
About you?
That's
Yeah.
him.
Mm-hmm. And then we had many a fun adventure. At the Dead Sea, I remember we were all out late. Do you remember playing leapfrog?
In the streets.
In the streets.
In like a 6-lane road.
Going
me and Joey
through the Dead Sea.
Was Annie with us?
And Annie was videoing. I don't think she was participating.
But she was with us.
She was with us, yeah. And then Ben and Joey were telling us how they were super good at, I don't know if they still do this, Uriel, but they were so good at doing the claw machines.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so good that they tried like 5 times in a row and didn't get anything.
That sounds about right.
But it was rigged, and the machines in Israel were different, and things just weren't quite working out for you guys, but it's pretty funny. Anyway, so yeah, that's Ben Mathis for you.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
First impressions.
Yeah, first impressions.
I bought you, was it pomegranate juice?
Yep, you bought me pomegranate juice. That was so good over there. They would cut pomegranates in half. They would like grind them like you make orange juice, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that how they would do it?
The little spiky
thing. Squeeze all that juice out. And did they mix it with anything? Maybe orange.
Orange
Juice.
Orange pomegranate.
Yeah, super good. Mm-hmm.
Times in the bazaar.
Yes, the street bazaar. Is that what you're talking about? Mm-hmm.
That's where the juice was.
Yeah, it's so good.
What's a bazaar?
It's like
pretty bizarre.
It's like a street fair.
It's like yeah.
But I think they're more like their everyday type of a thing, maybe like vendors and stuff.
Yeah.
But
they're like a very Middle East thing.
Okay.
Yeah, they are pretty bizarre. They have some interesting stuff. I bought everyone Israel pants. Do you
Mhm.
still have yours?
I'm
Or-
not sure. I might somewhere.
I didn't
Yeah.
get his real pants.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
It'd be a lot cooler if I did.
Yeah.
We have some right here if you want to try them on.
Yeah, they're hanging in my closet. I
You
used to
better
wear
be
them,
recording
and
this.
then
I'll say too
people.
bad this isn't a video.
Yeah, exactly. Here's Ben modeling our Israel pants. I used to wear them a lot, and then people would make fun of me, so I kind of haven't worn them in a while.
People make fun of you?
Yeah, because they do look a little odd. They
I thought
kind
they
of
were
look
cool.
like, yeah, Ezra likes them. They kind of
I thought
look
they
like
were cool.
pajamas if you don't quite know what's going
Like
on.
Phil's overalls.
Exactly.
I love you, Phil.
But you're also like, what are you wearing? I got them in Israel. It's okay. But I feel like I was going to say something about that. Oh, for your birthday, I was going to text you the picture we took when we got pomegranate juice. Yeah, we took a selfie, and I can't find it anywhere. Because I was like,
Rip.
Uh-oh.
and I was going to be like, oh, blast from the past with Ben before he became my brother.
Yeah.
Can't find it. It's gone. So it's probably on a hard drive somewhere.
It's in the cloud.
Yeah, it's in the cloud.
Is it weird to look back on that time and realize that like Ben is now your brother and he's like the same guy that you first met?
Yeah, it's not really too weird. I'm trying to think about that.
It's weird for me.
Is it really?
We were just talking a few minutes ago. I was like, you remember the first time we met Ezra, like right after Annie's wedding?
Yeah.
It was like this 5 years ago, and it's so hard to believe. Because, like, I just met this random guy. I was like, oh, that's Emily's boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that's my brother-in-law now. It was so
Right.
weird.
Like, that's
I had
before-
zero.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Inkling of
weird
any of
because you
that.
just came as a friend for
Yeah.
Annie's
For
wedding.
Annie's wedding.
And then, yeah, you're like, okay, whatever, Ezra. Yeah, no, you
This
guys
is
are
cool.
brothers.
Yeah, it's a cool dude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. I guess it is a little interesting to think about.
Well,
Yeah.
it's weird to look back. You know, the video you're just showing us. It's like 5 years. That's
Mhm.
a long time. We're gonna be married
Yeah.
5 years.
I
This
know.
year.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, tell us how you fell in love with Uriel.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay,
So-
or not.
He's got that something to say.
That little cricket in there.
Or not. It can be the abridged
It was,
version.
yeah, the abridged. So, I see this girl in Bible college, and like I was in a relationship this time, but she just like stuck out to me when she was there. I was like, oh wow, like she's just an attractive person. Like, whatever. I saw her there, and then somehow like I ended up with like 30 people's Snapchats that day.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know who any of them were, and then
Well, I dropped Annie off at the college with my parents and
Yeah.
our
Oh.
little
Uriel
sister.
was there.
But I'm the same age as all the college kids, so they all thought I was the one staying at the school.
Right. That's
So I think
so
I got a
funny.
bunch of
guys.
people's like Snapchats and
I
phone
just-
numbers, and we're all hanging out, and then I left
Then
and
you're
Annie
like,
stayed.
Yeah.
They're
Like,
like,
what?
what?
so then
That
yeah.
is super funny.
I like followed her on Snapchat, saw like her whole like life, social life or whatever for months and months, and then she comes back for graduation. And like I knew Emily and Annie pretty well, and then we ended up sitting next to each other, and I like said hey or something to her, and she looked at me and looked away and did not say a word the entire time.
Uriel.
And it's on video. Emily has it on video.
It's on
like
one
me
of her
looking over
vlogs.
at her.
Wait,
You.
Emily. Me?
It was when Ben
You should
was
pull up the
giving
footage and
us
put it
all.
on there.
I'll try it. I'll
Yeah,
try to
why?
find it.
Yeah, when you go to TI. Or I get
Oh,
go to
yeah,
TI.
Yeah, you
I remember that night.
So yeah,
Yep.
so that was that, and I was like, okay, well this girl's stuck up. I don't know. She didn't talk to me.
Right.
So then
These Washington girls.
I've still like we're just followers on Snapchat or whatever, and like she'd post something about Tim or something. I always respond if I saw Tim on her story. Or, so I saw her for a year and a half or whatever, and then I go to Annie's wedding, and I post my story like headed to Seattle for the first time, whatever. And then she messages me, and then like it's like, well, that's weird. So then like I respond to her, and then she messaged me back, and I'm like, I don't even know who this is. Like, I mean, like I know who she is, but why is she messaging me? And then like I get there, and she's like, hey, you made it, and gives me this big hug, and I'm like, who are you? But I was like, at this point, I was single, and I was like, wow, she is super attractive. But yeah, like 3 weeks before that, she posted on Snapchat a picture of a guy with a beard, and it said like my man with a bunch of hearts, and I was like, okay, well this girl is taken. So like we get there, and I'm like, oh yeah, this girl's obviously like got a boyfriend or something. So like after the wedding, like we're just hanging out. She's super flirty. I'm like, wow, the poor guy. Like,
I
no.
honestly don't think I've ever been so flirty with anybody else in my entire life.
But I just assumed she had a guy.
It's meant to be.
I assumed she had a boyfriend. She was super flirty with me though, and I thought she was super attractive. I was like, well, she's got a boyfriend. I'm not gonna ask. Like that's awkward.
Right.
What happened?
Very respectful.
Okay.
No, I think we're still good.
But yeah, like I'm already like awkward homeschooler. I'm not gonna ask somebody I'm 99% sure has a boyfriend if she has a boyfriend. Who also, I live in North Carolina. She's in Washington. Last I looked, that's like 2,500 miles away.
Right. It's
How is that
opposite.
gonna ever work out?
Yeah.
So like I didn't think that would ever work out. But I did go back to her Airbnb that night, and I did look up because I worked UPS. The UPS in Washington. I was like, hey, I'm just curious where the UPS is here, just if I happen to move here.
Uh-huh. Was it
yeah.
good location?
Yeah, I mean it was, but yeah, ended up going back to North Carolina. Stuff happened, and we kind of stayed in contact. And then, like 6-7 months later, I randomly just messaged her like, hey, how's it going? And we just started talking about random stuff right at the beginning of COVID. And then like we're talking about how crazy we're talking about how crazy everything is, like what we're gonna do, and then I went home for like supposedly a week, and then everything shut down, so I got stuck.
Wow.
So I'm just like hanging out at my parents' house, just doing whatever, and then like we texted back and forth a bunch, and then she texted me about something, and then I didn't respond right away, and I accidentally opened the message. And then I forgot to respond. So, like, the next day, she messaged me, like, are you okay? And I saw it, and I didn't want to, like, immediately text back, because then she'd think I was ignoring her. So I forgot to message her again. So it was, like, 2 or 3 days. So I was like, oh, shoot, this is bad. So then, yeah, we started messaging or whatever. I was like, man, I really like this girl. But we live so far away. Like, I've literally spent, like, 3 hours with her in my entire life. What am I thinking? Like,
yeah.
I had, like, 6 different people trying to set me up with somebody. I was like, why am I interested in her if she's so far away? And like, I don't know. I was like, whatever. And then she was like, well, if you like me, you're going to have to talk to my dad. She didn't think I was going to do that. So
Ben had never met my dad. Like,
yeah.
And I was just like...
I think I remember this from the Tuesday night class.
I think
brought it up.
I was like, please pray for me.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Because I did tell Pops about it.
So I think, yeah, so like, I said hey to him at Annie's wedding, and that was it. But I didn't know what he looked like. I don't remember any of that stuff.
Sure.
I remember what your mom looked like, but not Pops, because, I mean, I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then she was like, oh, you're not going to call him or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to. And then, like, I had a friend, Luke, who I'm going, he's getting married next week. Woohoo! Congrats, Luke! He came to visit me for, like, a week, and she was like, you need to call my dad. And I was like, I will. And she didn't think it was. And then I was like, all right, here we go. So I call him, and I'm like, what do I say? Like, I've been talking to this girl for months. I was like, hey, I live on the other side of the country. I've been talking to your daughter for months, and I like her. That's basically what I did.
So were you really intimidated? I don't think
Yes.
I've ever talked to you about this.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I hate all phone calls. I have crazy phone anxiety.
Uh-huh.
I do not like...
Finxiety.
I don't leave voicemails if I can't help it. But since I've started a business, I have to. So I do it now. But like, the first voicemail I ever left was for Chris Green when I was living in Wyoming. And I was talking about moving out here.
I was trying to find a job.
I was trying to find a job. And she was like, just leave him a voicemail. He doesn't answer. And I was like, no. But I ended up calling him like 3 different times, so I finally had to. And I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Anyways.
Anyway, you called
fast
Good for you.
forward, rewind. So yeah, I called Pops and I laid it all out there, and he was like, sure, you can come up. So I came up for Esther's wedding and spent a few days here, and I was like, wow, this girl is freaking awesome. This Washington is like this ethereal, mythic place. Everything is just all happy. It was great. It was like, this is like living in a fairy tale. Because we came here in like beautiful weather, just everything was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was here for 5 days, and then I left and drove back to Wyoming, where I was living at the time. Or I just moved back to. I was like, man, this sucks. Because, like, Wyoming is beautiful, but I was like, I don't want to be here. I want to be there.
Yeah, totally.
So then I was like, oh, I don't know. I didn't think I was actually going to move here, but I was like, I really like her. So then
And my dad, Pops, had told him that if he wanted to pursue me, he needed to move to Washington.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't know. So then I called him. And I was like, hey, is it okay if I do a surprise visit to go see Uriel? And he's like, oh, sure. So, like, we worked everything out. And I had to take a part to Montana from Wyoming to get worked on a tractor. And then, like, a week later, I bought my tickets, everything. And the shop called me and said the part was ready. So all I told her was, the part is ready. I'm also leaving early in the morning. I probably won't be able to talk to you because I have bad signal.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just hopped on a plane and flew here. She had
wasn't
no
going
clue.
to get the part.
Yeah, I didn't go get the part. I just said the part was ready and I was leaving early.
Right.
So I came and surprised her, and we spent
Surprise,
another
surprise.
week in this awesome, cool place. And then
Was it raining that week? Or was it also nice?
That's pretty nice for the most
Nice.
part.
Wow.
When
It's
was
still
it? Was it
September,
okay?
August,
September?
September.
Nice.
Yeah, it was over Annie and Tim's anniversary.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I definitely love this girl. Definitely gonna move here. Like, we had spent maybe 6 days together at this point, like, in person.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, I'm sold. I'm gonna do it. But I'd made a couple commitments in Wyoming, and I didn't want to, like, rush it too soon. So then I went back and, thought about it and everything, and finished up my commitments, and then I decided to call Pops one day, and I was like, well, I didn't call him Pops at this point. I'll call him Ken.
Hey, Pops. I mean, Ken.
Yeah.
Didn't earn the privilege yet.
Yeah. So I called him one day. Again, I hate phone calls, and it was like, this is a stressful one. So I was with my parents when I called him. We were in West Virginia in the parking lot of a Rural King, which is like Tractor Supply on steroids.
Oh boy.
That sounds
The
awesome.
best store in the world. It's like Lowe's, Tractor Supply, and Coastal had a baby. It's wonderful.
Wow, that does sound really fun.
It's the coolest place. Anyway, met this Rural King, and like, I can't stand talking on the phone if anybody can hear me. Like, if I'm calling to order a pizza, I have to step out. I cannot. So, like, my parents, like, we're writing, like, just call him now. I'm like, no. I'm like, pull over. I'm not going to. So, yeah, we pulled over, and I called him, and I was like, hey, just letting you know, like, I really like you, and I think I'm going to move to Washington. Just, like, a heads up. So you're not just show up like that, just like show up here. And he's like, okay, like, that's fine. So then that was in October, like 16th. And then December like 7th or whatever, I finished up my commitments in Wyoming on the ranch, and then found a place to stay and a job, and moved out to Washington, dropped all my stuff off, and then left for 2 weeks to go home for Christmas, and then moved back. We came back to Washington, and then we dated for 6 months, and we were engaged for 3 months, and now we've been married. It'll be 3 years this year.
Wow.
So finish out the whole. You thought I had a boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, after, I don't know at what point we figured this out, but at some point, like, probably a year later, like, probably when I came to visit her, the first time I came just to visit her, we found out that boy that I thought was her boyfriend, where she said my man with hearts, was a Snapchat filter over Esther,
My
her
sister,
sister,
Esther.
who looked like dude.
No
And
way.
that's why I thought he was a boyfriend, because it said
That's a
my
good-looking man.
with hearts.
With a beard filter.
And
That's awesome.
Had me fooled. So,
Wow.
Keeping the boys
Funny.
away.
So had that not happened, we probably, who knows, we probably would have moved sooner. You know, I might have moved here before COVID started and all that stuff. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. But I think us waiting, we both ended up having a lot happen in between that, us first meeting and us talking stage. We both learned a lot. So I think overall, it all worked out.
It worked
It's-
out, yeah.
It's,
That worked out.
it's,
He hit his wife, for those of you who
Yes.
are wondering.
it's biblical.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Cut that.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen.
Man, we don't want to give our listeners any ideas.
Oh, man.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
so funny.
that's the I can't keep it any shorter than that right there.
Yeah, that's pretty
I
good.
feel like it's a little bit longer of a story, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
No, that's
high
good.
notes.
That's awesome. I was waiting for the part where I met her sister in Israel, and her sister was so amazing that I was
She
like, I have to
was.
marry into this family.
The thing is like we thought her and my brother got along great. And I was like, well, I don't know, there's something there.
Yeah.
But either way, he ended up being my sister-in-law.
It's true.
It
worked out.
Yep. And, yeah.
Destined to be related to the Mathises somehow.
Yeah.
Here we are. But
chose a Mexican over a white man.
I made a really good choice, let me tell you.
Yep.
But, no, that's cool.
That's our love.
Well, I'm glad that you guys got married, and here you are.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
And even if I wasn't, I would tell you that because you're on my podcast, and I can't offend you guys on my podcast. Yeah. But one thing that...
This is where we start roasting you now.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, one thing I found out recently, because Ezra got Ben's name for Christmas, so we all draw names for Christmas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I had that right.
This past Christmas.
Yes.
This past Christmas.
Yeah. Yep.
So we all draw names. Ezra drew Ben's name, and turns out Ben loves Lord of the Rings. And so I was like, wow, this is super cool, because I love Lord of the Rings too. I had this grand plan, which I made the mistake of telling Ezra about, and it didn't come to fruition. Because I'm realizing that having kids and trying to make the videos that I want to make is just not really possible. But I wanted to interview a bunch of people at Ezra's basketball game and ask them about some Lord of the Rings things that we were having an argument about. So I'll just explain. I was telling Ezra that it's ridiculous for someone to think that Sam is a dwarf. And Ezra told me that it's actually very common because hobbits and dwarves are basically the same thing and are very easily confused. And I told him that was not the case, and I was going to interview a bunch of people and show him that the average person out in the public would not say that Samwise Gamgee is a dwarf. However, every time I'm out in public, I'm wrangling my children, and I don't have time to video people. So I don't have.
Y'all had this argument?
In the last couple weeks.
Disagreement.
So
recently.
It all started with. How did it start? Were you talking to my dad?
Oh yes, that's right. I was talking to Ezra's dad, who went to a trivia night, and one of the questions at trivia night was, "What is the name of Frodo's dwarf companion?" And Ezra's dad decided that his team would say Samwise Gamgee. Because they thought that Frodo's best friend was the dwarf the question was talking about. So then, Google isn't allowed at the trivia night. But then afterwards, instead of going to Google, he decides to wait until he can talk to me about it because, I know everything about Lord of the Rings. So then he asks me... So he asks me if Sam is a dwarf, and I informed him Sam is not a dwarf, he's a hobbit.
It's Gimli.
Yes, and he's like, what's the name of the dwarf? I was like, Gimli.
Son
and he was like, And I was like, yeah, they're two totally different things. I told Ezra, I was like, can you believe they got that question wrong at trivia? I cannot believe it. So
I know the difference.
That's what started our disagreement, is Ezra's like, well, you have to understand, that's a common thing.
It is common.
No.
Even though Ezra understands the difference.
I get the difference.
But I was just shocked that Ezra's dad's entire team thought that Sam was the correct answer. So I was very fascinated by that. So then I was like, well, we'll have to get Ben's opinion about that. Do you ever run into people who are just really confused about dwarves and hobbits?
Not dwarves and hobbits.
Okay.
Actually, yes, I worked at UPS, and this guy I worked with. Great friend. He's got a massive beard, a little portly.
Okay.
It's round. If people that don't know what portly means, and he came in with a fur trapper hat one day, and the guy I worked with was like, "Man, look at him. He looks like a hobbit." And I looked at him, and my whole world just shattered. But I was like, I'm not gonna say anything. I just let it slide. I was like, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But I was like, we worked at 3 a.m. I was like, it's 3 a.m. I'm not ready to duke it out over dwarves versus hobbit. They're completely different things. 100%. Yeah, that's like comparing ice to, I don't know.
Water?
Fire, I don't know.
Yeah.
Two completely different things.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree, but maybe someday I'll ask the public and see if anyone out there is confused, but so far it's only your coworker and
that's the only one I've heard that has been like, oh, yeah, he looks like a hobbit. I'm like, hobbits don't have beards.
Yeah.
Hobbits aren't that tall. They are a little portly. They don't wear fur trapper hats. There's nothing other than being like short. There's nothing, and I guess
hairy feet.
Dwarfs. I mean, I guess they could have hairy feet, but it's not specified they have hairy feet. I mean, they're
not.
probably just hairy all over. But hobbits, I mean, they do live in holes.
True.
Whereas dwarves live in caves. That's sort of similar. I mean, I get there's a little something there, but
right. They're both short. And they both live underneath Earth.
Dwarves live way longer lives. They were subcreated by Aule, the Vala. They're not.
Here's where we're
They should do a master class on hobbits versus dwarves.
They are not the children of Iluvatar.
Wait, Aule is the creator of Just Dwarves.
Of Just Dwarves.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, it's called the Legendarium. Mm-hmm. Smaller than that. The universe is Ea, which is Tolkien's world.
Okay.
Arda is the planet. So it's like the Legendarium is like all the stories. Then Ea's universe, Arda. Then Eru is Eru Iluvatar, either or you can go by Eru Iluvatar, whatever. He is the supreme being, but he created the world, kind of step back. And there's these little G gods, there's 14 of them. Mm-hmm. And Aule is one of them. He is the guy who created like pretty much all the elements. Okay. And all of the way the whole world starts was with the great music, and there's elves and men, which are very similar. People think they're two different things, which they are two different things, but they're a lot more similar than they are dissimilar. Okay. And they are called the children of Iluvatar. Okay. Aule decided to create his own children, the dwarves, and he wasn't supposed to. It was a bad thing, but there's a whole. This is like the beauty of Tolkien's work. You see full repentance and everything exercised in it, and it's like wonderful. And he was ready to like destroy this creation, but then Eru was like, "No, save him. Like, we'll keep him." So they are his children by adoption. The dwarves are, but they're crafted a lot different. They're a lot hardier. They're made to withstand like hunger and darkness and war, and like they can go like days and days without sleep. They can work like crazy, but they're not the same thing. But it said they're like made of stone or whatever. That's how he originally crafted them. But yeah, so they're the adopted children of Iluvatar, whereas elves and men are the actual children of Iluvatar that he created.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And the
hobbits.
result of them being hobbits?
Hobbits, nobody for sure knows. It's not actually written anywhere where they came from. They just appeared. They literally... Tolkien doesn't have anything on the origin, but hobbits are mannish of the race of men, so they have the same fate, just like men do. They're mortal, not immortal. They do live like a little bit longer.
So there's midgets?
That's an offensive word. So yeah, that's hobbits. They're just
that's amazing.
Little
They're little people
that are very, very earthy. They're down to earth. I mean, they like working with earth, and but they're just simple people. They're based off of just the 19th century English country folk.
Is it pretty typical that their personalities are pretty cheerful and dwarves are grumpy? Does that have to...
Well, I guess the only reason people assume dwarves are grumpy is probably because of...
Gimli?
Like Snow White and those dwarves, like grumpy and all, also, everybody... It used to be dwarf. The plural of dwarf was dwarfs, which that is how everybody thought it used to be.
With an F.
Just FS.
Okay.
The person that changed it to dwarves, VES for plural, is Tolkien.
Oh, really?
And at the time, everybody freaked out. We're like, that's not how you say it. It's dwarfs. And then he wrote the Oxford English Dictionary and put in, it's dwarves, and changed it. And now nobody says dwarfs these days, unless, if you hear somebody say it, you're like, that's incorrect English.
Yeah.
And it is. But it's Tolkien's thing. The reason why it used to be elves. Now it's elves. Yeah. The VES is 100% because of Tolkien, and he put it in the dictionary, and that's why we say it that way.
Wow.
That's
we owe a lot
cool.
to that man. Cool. He wrote a lot of the Oxford English Dictionary too.
I didn't know you could write the dictionary.
I mean, he worked on it at Oxford, so that's why. Because he was an Oxford scholar there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And helped write a lot of it.
Gotcha. He wasn't just in his basement like, I'm going to write a dictionary.
It's not like Wikipedia.
Although,
the great thing about Wikipedia is that anyone in the world can write about anything. So you're getting the most accurate information possible.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Anyone in the world can write about anything.
Yeah, that's why Wikipedia is the most reliable source ever, because anybody can write about it. So you know you're getting as accurate of information as possible.
That is false. Wait, what?
That's
Are you
Michael
lying to me?
Scott.
Oh!
You thought I was being serious.
I did. I
was like, yeah, what?
I was like, can someone help me? Like desperately looking around.
I was like, I wanna say yes to whatever you're saying, but what?
That is so funny.
The confidence he delivered that with was great.
Yeah, you did great. I've never watched The Office, but is he saying that to a coworker?
Yes.
And is he being satirical?
He's being serious.
Oh,
He's being serious,
Oh.
Michael Scott. But
Gotcha.
it's
Yeah,
a quote
confidence
that,
was
yeah, I've
That
tried to nail
funny.
that confidence down. I'm
Yeah.
not a super confident person, but I can get a dumb line down.
Yeah, you're like, I got it down. Yeah. We've seen The Office enough times,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That you should have it down by now.
I've seen it once or twice.
Once or twice, maybe 200.
Times
twice.
three.
It took me a while to realize when Ben would say something really dumb, it was most likely a Michael Scott quote, and not
Gotcha.
originally just Ben being dumb.
Right.
So,
A lot of people look at me dumb when I say dumb stuff, and it usually is an Office quote.
Uh-huh.
But I've gotten to the point where I'm tired of saying it's from The Office. I just, I'm like, if they think I'm dumb, whatever.
Whatever. And if they know, they'll think you're hilarious.
Right.
yeah, I think it's
Exactly.
funny.
Did we have something we were talking about that we just derailed from? I went straight to Wikipedia.
No, yeah, I mean, now we're on The Office, so that's wrapping up Lord of the Rings, folks.
Is that it?
No, I'm just kidding. No, let's see. I wanted to Google some things about Lord of the Rings. You know how you can go onto Google and just type in, like,
Does Frodo, and then...
Exactly, and then see what people are trying to figure out. And I
Dumb
figured
people.
you would be the guy to answer the most
You're
asked
Google.
questions on Google.
I am the Tolkien wiki.
Yes. And as most
I learned a lot.
podcast hosts, I'm super prepared with all my questions. So that's why I'm going to Google right now
I
to
will
find
say,
some.
I do know a lot about the books and the movies, but they kind of run together sometimes. Just because, like, the movies are always on. Like, it's always on the background. Like, especially if I have a rainy office day and I don't have busy work to do, I stay home and work on paperwork. I'm always watching Lord of the Rings in the background. Or, you know.
What's your favorite movie?
Fellowship.
Fellowship.
Yeah, the first one. It's great. I love the whole hobbitiness, the peace, the happiness of the Shire, like the good food, all that. Like, that's right up my alley. I love it. I love all of Lord of the Rings. I like the wars and all that stuff, but I just love that good natured, down to earth beginning. And it's just that, and like as they make each movie, it gets a little bit not as good. Like Fellowship's the best, and then Two Towers was like not quite as good. Return of the King was not quite as good as that. And then once they made the first Hobbit, it was like a steep drop off. And like the first Hobbit movie was good.
It was one of the
But
best
then-
movies ever made,
But
I
then
think.
the Desolation of Smaug was like a big step down from there. And then Battle of the Five Armies, they were snorting coke. It was horrendous. And like I've
What
seen
is
it
it?
like 30 times still. But like
Wow. I
it's
didn't even
just-
bother watching it.
it's such a disappointment. So yeah, each movie is not as good as the last, but between 3 and 4 it was like big drop, and then number 6 was like
What's your opinion on the TV show they put out?
ooh.
Have you
It's a
watched it?
spicy take.
Yeah,
oh
we-
yeah.
we watched
I've
it
seen it a
several
couple
times.
times.
Okay.
Again, it's
Let's
another
hear
thing like
it.
I like having it on in the background for sure. There's some things that I genuinely enjoy about it. It's still not quite Tolkien. There's a lot of things they've done differently. And the whole idea... Where do we get started? I mean, hobbits weren't even around then in the Second Age, so they shouldn't be there. I mean, I guess they could... They didn't have any story or any major plot in the Second Age. So if they were around, they didn't have anything to do with it. And then
What's
whole...
the Second Age? Is that
So that's...
after...
Ooh.
I don't
Wait
know.
for it. Have you
Oh,
not seen it?
no.
Have neither of y'all seen it?
Hmm.
Oh, are you gonna? Does it matter if I spoil this?
No, go for it.
Okay, so yeah, Second Age is the age before all the stuff in Lord of the Rings takes place, which is Third Age.
Okay.
So that's when Sauron's rise to power happens. He originally forges all the Great Rings. They condensed a 3,000-year timeline into like 5 years in the show, which that cuts me right in the heart of lore because it's not cool. Like they've done a lot of funky things, and there's not that much written on the Second Age. So they're adding a ton of extra fluff and extra characters, and like so many people are upset about the race stuff in it. I'm okay with it. It's fine. Like it's all about like black characters or mixed characters or woman lead characters.
Biracial couples. and
I've
stuff.
gotten over that. It's fine. It doesn't matter. But like, there's strict themes that Tolkien has that they've gone against. Like, one of the themes that they push throughout the whole thing is like, you have to touch the darkness to know what the light is. That's not true. You don't have to do bad things to know what's right or wrong. That's completely against what Tolkien would say. And there's like another plot line. This whole thing, like the elves are fading and going away, which that is a theme in Tolkien. But the way they play it is like they live for thousands and thousands of years. In the show, it's all of a sudden like, we're fading, and if by this spring we don't get mithril, we're all gonna die. And like, that's not how metal works. That's not how mithril works. It's not this magical healing thing that keeps your immortality forever. And it's weird. It's like there's a lot of weird things, but overall, the dwarves they nailed 100%. The dwarves were great. The elves, not so much. Their hair is atrocious. It is,
Oh, no.
The hair is horrible. It is not.
That hair day?
Yeah,
Gotta watch
They
this.
all have terrible hair. And like Celebrimbor is supposed to be this jacked elf that's like good looking dude. He made all the rings originally. But he's played by Charles Edwards in Downton Abbey. So he's like an old dude. And like elves don't get old, especially by the Second Age, because the world's only factoring the years of the sun plus the years of the trees. They're like, the oldest elf can be like 10,000, which isn't that old for one. He shouldn't look like he's 60 or 70 years old. He should look like he's 30. It's like, he's an old man, and he's not jacked. He's just like, yeah. So like,
Just old man.
the elves, they didn't
vibes.
get too great. The hobbits, they're okay. They're actually like the precursor to hobbits. They're called Harfoots, which everybody knows. Harfoot is one of the three.
Harfoots and hobbits?
Harfoots, so there's three like strains or races of hobbits. There's Fallowhides, Stoors, and Harfoots. But they call them all Harfoots, even though that's one of the three races of hobbits. So they got them, they're alright, I guess. And then the men are pretty good. They got Numenor really good. So yeah, overall, like, it's nice to have on, but it doesn't feel like Tolkien 100%. It's a variant.
Right.
So yeah, that's my take on Rings of Power. I give it like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Except for the dwarves. They got the dwarves really good.
Nice.
That's the best part about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know anything about the TV show, so
Oh,
I just
okay.
learned a lot. I didn't even know there were 3 different races of
Has it
hobbits.
already been 39 minutes?
Yes.
Holy cow.
You should ask him the
It
question.
feels like it's been like 6 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I know. I always think that. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And then once we get going, it's like,
I've done all the talking so
Yeah,
far.
no, this is
Yeah.
great. That's why we have
This
people
is
on.
not how...
So that you can do all the talking.
Okay.
No, this is perfect. You know what? Nobody wants to. I mean, what do we do? Change
We're here for
diapers
you.
all day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't put that.
Who do you think is the main character of Lord of the Rings?
The main character or the hero?
Ooh.
Hmm.
Oh. Okay.
Main character.
Okay, main character.
Main character, I'd say probably Frodo.
Okay.
I think he's the main character,
Okay.
not the hero.
Who do you think is the hero?
Samwise.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Tolkien said it himself in one of his letters. I want to say it's letter 131 to Milton Wallman. He says in the book that the chief hero is Samwise. And Frodo, like, he did good, but, like, he failed. And Tolkien writes, I'm pretty sure it's in that same letter, that the quest to destroy the ring, literally nobody could do it. It was completely impossible. The only person that could do as good of a job as they did was Frodo. Sam, he calls him the hero because of, like, guess how he handled stuff, and he didn't kill Frodo when Frodo decided to take the ring, because I probably would have. You know, Phil, I love you, if you're listening, but if we got to Mordor and you took the ring for yourself, I'd probably kill you. I'd probably bite your finger off too. But anyway,
If a golem and
so he writes that, like, if Aragorn was to take the ring, he would not have made it to the gates of Mordor. He is so powerful. Same with Gandalf. If anybody with that much power, the ring would have a corrupting force. That's why, like, it's in the movies and in the books when he first tries to offer the ring to Gandalf, he's like, it would yield a power too great for me, and I would be even worse than if Sauron had the ring, because of how much power and how great Gandalf was. So, like, but somebody weak also couldn't make it. So Frodo was that perfect balance of he could resist the power of the ring, but had enough power to carry it and get it to Mordor. And there's nobody else in the entire universe that could have ever gotten it to that point. And there's a whole lot. I could go on another, 30-minute tangent on this concept.
We got all night. No.
It's called Spabimi, and I'll leave it at that. The Spabimi, it's like this whole
Spabimi.
theological thing. It's really deep. It's a theme that Tolkien has throughout the entire thing. It just adds to the depth of Tolkien and how amazing and how everything is like perfect gears that mesh. But anyways, we don't have to get into that.
We'll have a part 2.
Okay.
Yes.
When we come to your guys' place.
Okay.
In North Carolina,
So
we'll
that's
have an
what happens
episode.
here.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I could get into it. It's deep and it's wonderful. But anyway,
Yeah.
Frodo failed, but he did better than anybody else could have. But the whole point that Tolkien is making is that nobody would have succeeded. It was completely impossible. But he did the best job that anybody could have and got it there. But Samwise is the chief hero.
Yeah, I like that. I like that explanation.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Letter 131. It is very, very... Biden brain. What I was going to say.
It's very enlightening.
Yeah, important, enlightening, impactful.
Explanatory.
It's very... What's the word I'm going to say? Anyways, Letter 131 of Tolkien.
Okay.
It sheds so much light on everything. It takes there's the book The Silmarillion, the preface of it is Letter 131. It was a very famous letter that Tolkien wrote to somebody. And the audiobook version for Andy Serkis to narrate it is an hour, this letter that he wrote to somebody.
Wow.
An hour-long read. So it's so insightful. That's the word. Did I say insightful?
Insightful.
That's
I don't
the
think
word.
you did, but okay.
Insightful. That's what I was
Gotcha.
going to say.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
Insightful.
Yeah. I had something. Oh, have you read all of his letters?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm poor and I haven't bought the book yet.
Yeah.
So-
Next Christmas, Ezra will get you that.
They don't have they don't have it on audiobook yet. Otherwise, I would buy the audiobook because I don't have time to sit down and just read all those letters. But it'd be great for audio, but they don't have it yet.
Yeah.
I have
Well-
most everything else. He has an audiobook though.
Maybe when we're done making this podcast, we could just read those. Put them on audio.
Ben listening to our voices
Yeah.
right now.
And then
I have a
the
British accent.
Well, Mexican accent.
We're like mispronouncing everything.
849.
Then the Samaralia, god of Eratos.
It is funny.
I don't remember.
It is funny seeing different editions because the Silmarillion in Spanish it's just El Silmarillion.
Oh.
It's really funny
Oh,
just
yeah.
to see it. Just like El Silmarillion. But yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.
Sorry if I offended anybody with that.
No, probably just
I forgive
Ezra. So. All right. Well, I'm gonna just ask you, why did Frodo? We'll start with Frodo, and then ask you questions that people have been Googling.
Mm-hmm.
Why did Frodo leave the Shire?
To take the ring to Rivendell initially,
Nice.
not to destroy it because that was not where he thought he was going. To get it to Rivendell was his primary goal, and to get the ring out of the Shire to protect the Shire.
Man, now I'm even trying to remember. Wait, why did he keep going? Was that where they had the council?
Yeah, he went to
Oh, okay.
Rivendell. I thought you said you knew everything about Lord of the Rings earlier.
Yeah, I was lying.
After listening to you, she's like, what?
Yeah, so
Compared to the people I live with.
his goal
I know
was
everything.
to get the ring to Rivendell, and they would decide from there. And
Gotcha.
then he decided to take it
Okay, that's right.
to Mordor.
That's probably why people are Googling, because they're like me, and they actually don't know
So you
everything.
pretty much have like a PhD, like Lord of the Rings.
You know, I wish.
Pain.
I would love to go.
Doctor.
I know there's a master's level Tolkien course you can take.
Oh, wow.
I would love to get that.
Wow.
But who has money and time for that?
Yeah,
I can't even read all the books now. I don't have time for that.
yeah.
Work keeps me swamped. So anyway.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Nobody got time for that.
Have you heard all this already?
Yeah.
You're
I've heard all that.
Most of this. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever mentioned letter 131 to you.
You talk about it in your
I know
sleep,
it was at
probably.
the beginning
Probably.
of the
Yeah, in the
Silmarillion.
sleep. So what's the next
I feel
one?
like a lot of the themes I don't go
The next one is, why did Frodo go to Valinor? What's
technically-
Valinor?
So Valinor is the Undying Lands. It's in the west. So there's a continent, Middle Earth. Middle Earth is not like people think of it as all sorts of stuff. Middle Earth is just a continent. West of there is a place called Valinor, and that's where all the little G gods live. All the Valar. There's a bunch of elves there partying it up.
At the very end of the story in the movies, when all the elves leave, they're going to Valinor.
They're all
Gotcha.
And even at the beginning of the Fellowship, the movies, they're like, "Oh, the elves are leaving to these shores." So technically, they say he goes to Valinor, but he actually does not. He goes to Tol Eressëa, which is an island just east of Valinor, and it's still like a healing place where elves are. It's where the exiled Noldoran elves ended up because they got exiled from Valinor. So they raised this thing. Ulmo, the god, the Valor of the Water, raised up this thing for them, the Lonely Isle. So he raised up this thing. So because of his stab from the Witch King, Frodo's getting stabbed there, which was like a mortal wound, and then getting, I guess he got bit and stung, whatever, by Sheila, the spider, and just the torment of carrying the ring so far and carrying it. The closer you got to Mordor, the worse it got, especially in there. And then his finger being bitten off and all that trauma was like wounds that would never heal. That's in the movie Gandalf says that wound will never fully heal. So he ended up going.
That was good.
Thank you.
Good impression.
It's my Ian McKellen. So he went to Tol Eressëa. He was accorded special honor, and in the movies they completely missed it. But in the books, he got Arwen's spot. Arwen was supposed to go, but she gave her spot to Frodo to get on the boat to go to there, and he went there to be healed. And I don't know if this is going to be more questions. I don't think it is. I doubt it. But common misconception is Frodo goes to there, the Undying Lands, and lives forever. That's not true. He dies, but he is healed and dies peacefully. It's not going there that makes you undying. It's the undying live there, and that's what's called the Undying Lands. People think that it's the Undying Lands because you go there and live forever, but it's not. It's those that live forever are in those lands.
Gotcha.
That's why it's the Undying Lands.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I feel like that sounds really deep.
Oh, it gets
and spiritual.
Yeah. So they talk about, like, if a man were to go there, especially uninvited, but if they go there, it's so radiant and stuff, it actually would burn them up sooner. Their life would be so much shorter because they're not made to do that.
Right.
Men are made to go to halls set apart, completely removed from the universe to another spot. Whereas elves, when they're born, they stay contained in all of Ea, specifically Arda, their entire existence.
Gotcha.
Whereas when men, they go somewhere else. So like them, Tolkien writes it as a moth to flame. Like moths, they're attracted. Men are like obsessed with immortality, but that's not their nature. And the more they seek for it, if they actually do get there, which does happen twice the whole story, they get there and like burn up because it's not their nature.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you call the land of quick death.
Yep.
Instead of the living forever.
The dying lands.
Yeah, the dying land, exactly.
So yeah.
Huh, that's interesting.
It's deep. It is so rich, theologically, thematically, textually, like everything about it is just it's great.
We're gonna have our kids memorize Tolkien's work just like they memorize the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically
I'm just kidding.
like I don't want to say anything heretical here, but it's like the closest thing to the Bible, like the work of Tolkien specifically, the Silmarillion. The way it's written, the context, just the way everything sounds is so Old Testament. It's like
I'm glad I have this stone right here.
it is.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
But it is. There's so much depth and richness to it. It is just the most beautiful work ever. I mean, besides the Bible.
Yeah.
It's the biggest piece of literature. And
that man has
Man-made.
written.
Man-made
Fiction.
literature.
Right.
Cool. Wow. I should read it. I've never even
It
heard
is-
of
I tried.
this
It is so
similar-
hard.
Oh, you
Have
have?
you read this? You tried?
I tried reading The Fellowship, and I got
Oh, the Fellowship's piece of cake. If you
Oh.
can't read that, you definitely read this one really.
There's no hope for me.
There's no-
I love your honesty.
I'll just stick with trying to figure out if a dwarf is different than a hard.
Yes.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
No. It's
Oh man.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll have
Anyway.
to check it out.
What next? Shimmer.
What next? I think it was
Bum, bum,
why. Oh, so this is a really good question. Have you ever watched How It Should Have Ended?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you seen the How It Should Have Ended for Lord of the Rings? So the next question is
Why didn't they take the Eagles in
Yes,
Mordor?
exactly.
That's such a straw man. Just
Wait, so-
terrible.
Why didn't the Eagles take Frodo to Mordor? Because in the end, they take him home pretty quick.
So the straight up,
Oh.
we've got all night, right?
Yep.
The straight up, the easiest answer is if they took him, there wouldn't be any story or plot.
Sure.
That's like just one of the worst questions. Like,
That's one of
There
the
wouldn't
worst
be a plot.
answers in a way.
no. So
Oh.
there's
I don't know.
there's like
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
so the Eagles are not just this like free agency thing. They're not the taxi service of Middle Earth. Okay, well, back up.
Yeah.
Eru Iluvatar is the supreme being, but he kind of stepped back. He gave the reins to Manwë. He is like, for all intents and purposes, the guy that controls everything within Arda. The Eagles are his foresight, I guess you could say. He sees with the eyes of eagles. He controls the eagles. So they are of his agency. But as you see from the beginning of time, it's all the Valar controlling everything. And as it goes, they're sort of stepping back. And they hand things off to elves. And the elves sort of hand it off to men. It's all this whole theme called ennoblement. Basically to enrich men's lives. So the eagles are his agents. So they don't have free will to just do whatever the heck they want. So they're not just like this thing like, hey, I need to get to wherever. Now Gandalf, he is a Maya, which is spirit right below Vala. Still super powerful, one of the most powerful beings in Middle-earth. He had a good friendship with them, so he could use them, but only at certain times. It wasn't like he could just call them whenever.
Gotcha.
And he had to ask them. He wasn't just like, hey, give me a ride to wherever. But the whole purpose of them stepping back is for men to be able to control and fix their own issues that happen. So the Valar want the men to fight their own battles, and they're over there just partying it up in Undying Lands, with all the lights, having fun.
Right.
So yeah, that's why the Eagles couldn't, because they're not their own free agents. And the other thing is the Eagles are super powerful, and like they talk about what happened if Gandalf got it. Imagine if like the most powerful eagle, Gwai here, if he got the ring, because if like he went to go pick them up with the ring, he could have been corrupted. He could totally kill any of them. He could have killed Gandalf. He could have gotten the
That's a good
ring.
point.
It could have corrupted him like that. So like they never carried them with that because it was like, yeah, they could have corrupted him.
Right.
It's not their mission either because the men are supposed to handle this thing on their own.
Right.
Gandalf, the whole reason he's in Middle Earth, he is sent as a Maya. There's 5 of them. They're called Astari. They're sent there to help, like, build up the spirits of men to do things. So like in the movies, they play off the magic thing a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
Gandalf was not a warrior or a like magician. He's not that kind of wizard. His role there was to encourage the hearts of men to fight and not give up. That's the whole purpose of it. That's why he ends up with the Ring of Fire, which he gets from Círdan, which has the spirit of fire in it to like ennoble heartsmen, get them to like fight their thing or whatever. So that's the thing. If Gandalf could have found a way probably to destroy the ring easier and use the eagle somehow, but that's not the point. The point is they need to get there on their own. So after it's destroyed, they come and pick them up. The ring's done. Frodo's about to die, so that's why that's their like reward is they do get rescued by the eagles because they are the foresight of Manwë and they go out there and get him.
Right.
So yeah, and there's a lot of other answers. joking, but that's the.
That's like the main synopsis of
I'm sold.
There's
it's the best explanation I've ever heard.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why they didn't take any Eagles. But the short is there wouldn't be a story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Well, folks, we blew that plot hole out of the water.
This conversation's gonna go viral.
Yes, we'll just take that little clip and
Yeah.
just put it all over the internet. Let's see.
How loud is that? Is it too loud? Can we turn it to?
Oh, is it? It is kind of warm in here.
Is that blowing
Toasty
my
roasty
way?
up here. It's blowing the other way.
Okay. Suck in all the cold air that way.
Ben asked for the fan to blow on him. We turn it towards the wall. It'll bounce off the wall and then it'll hit
nice.
you. Yeah. Okay, so so moving on past Lord of the Rings, because we're coming up on an hour, and I feel like we could be here for a long time.
I will say, all of these questions, I've never just somebody asked me these questions and I've been able to go in this depth and explain. I've explained this, like, if I'm working by myself and I'm thinking about, like, I'll think about this stuff all the time, but I've never just, like, opened up, spilled it all out.
Well, this has been really, honestly, really fun.
Good information.
Yeah. I really hope that our kids love Lord of the Rings. And
It better if
are
they're going to be
into
my
it.
nieces and nephews.
Perfect. So yeah, this is re-exciting me about reading the books again, because it's been a while since I've read the books. So yeah, I should do that. And of course, I want to read it with them when they're older, but it's gonna be a while because they're just babies. Do you have any questions that you wish people would ask you, because you're just dying to answer their questions?
I mean, a lot of those were good questions, but
the most asked
Is
questions
there
on
anyone who, I don't want to say nerd out with, but like
nerd out with? No, 100%. I
Yeah.
call myself a nerd all the time. Is there anybody I nerd out with?
Yeah, like Phil.
Yeah.
Is he
So he's read the books, but he doesn't love it like I do. But his brother is one that is just as much into it as I am. He's like the only person I know. So like whenever we go hang out with Phil's brother, me and him are hardcore, deep cut nerding it out. And Uriel and his wife Bethany are like freaking nerds or whatever. They go talk about their own books that whatever. So he's the only person I have that like we can get into it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if I had more people that would share the amount of love that I have
that you have.
because
There
it is,
are people out there, just not in our circles.
it's like there's So we talked about going to meet one of the nerdiest Tolkien nerds there is. He's in Texas. So I'm about meeting up with him next week.
Wow.
He's pretty famous, but I don't
Ooh.
know if it'll happen because like just we have so much going on.
Yeah. Is he one of the hosts for the Prancing Pony?
He is on the show. He's not a host, but he's
Okay.
one of the special people that comes on. He does have his own Tolkien podcast though. So I don't know. I still want to try and meet him, but I don't know.
Gotcha.
I messaged him. He's down for it. I just
Yeah.
don't think we can make the time because he's like 2 hours away from
That is
everything.
awesome.
Yeah, that is
His
really
name is
cool.
D Chad in Texas.
D Chad.
He's Chad in Texas, but everybody calls him D Chad.
D Chad. Nice.
And the podcast that he hosts is called the Texas Tolkien Podcast, and the other guy is also Chad in Texas.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I thought I was gonna be called the Shirey Diary or something.
That's pretty good. If I end up having a Tolkien journal where I write publicly, I'll name that, and I'll give you full credit.
The Shirey Diary. Yes. That's the only one I could come up with. I'm sure there's others if I really thought about it. Thanks.
Anyway, moving on from
Yeah.
Tolkien.
I'm sorry. Unless did you have anything you would ask? I mean, I have a bunch more, but
That's fine. We're
I know you guys probably need to get to bed. I know.
I don't care about bed.
I
I
know.
literally
Okay.
can sit here and talk about Tolkien for probably 6 hours.
Okay.
You could keep asking. I will not get tired of this.
Okay.
Ever.
Well,
He's getting adrenaline from this.
you guys are
This is
here
like
for
cocaine,
another.
and I'm just Tolkien.
Another letter.
As we're gonna go to bed, we hear Ben in the background. He's still doing our podcast. He's like,
My
"Let's see
alarm
what
goes
else."
off in the
Yeah.
morning. Morning!
Oh, that's so funny. Well, maybe we'll have to have you guys back sometime this week. We'll talk more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't really have anything prepared to ask you, Uriel. This has been a very Ben-heavy podcast.